Hello, Bianca from Lotus Series Designs here. On this episode, I wanted to take you through how I transformed a simple thrift shop box into a beautiful keepsake chest using WoodUBend and Dixie Belle paint products. We are going to be starting from the point where I've already laid a base coat after applying my WoodUBend Mouldings to the box. To learn how I got to this point, visit my blog, my Facebook, or my YouTube channel to view my live demonstration using WoodUBend Mouldings. So let's get started. After letting my base coat set, I grabbed a sea sponge and dipped it in Spanish moss. Using a dabbing motion, you can see how I apply the Spanish moss to my base. This technique is going to give the paint some texture. As far as where I am applying the Spanish moss, I am just working my way around the box, focusing more so on the flat surfaces rather than the appliques. You may have noticed that I switched to another sea sponge, this one coated in collard greens. Using the same dabbing technique as I did for the first color, I am dabbing around the outer edges of the box this time, as well as over the appliques with the colored greens. This technique is going to take some layering, alternating between my two colors. To get a plastered or roughly blended look, you are going to want to keep alternating between the colors until you achieve your desired results. Skipping forward a bit, you will see that I went ahead and applied the Spanish moss, which is the lighter color, over my appliques. Initially, I was just going to leave those solid. However, after working on this for a while, decided, hey, why not? Again, I want to reiterate, to get an old world finish, you'll want to keep layering using this technique until the paints are blended together in a textured fashion. Okay, so moving on, let's introduce the bronze patina paint into the mix. This is a special paint by Dixie Belle, in which when patina spray is added will actually have a patina effect. However, it can be used as a standalone paint. Using a fresh sea sponge, I am using the same technique, this time putting a heavy focus on the filigree, aka the WoodUBend Mouldings. Now, instead of alternating between two colors, I am alternating between three. Like I said, just keep layering your paints until you achieve your desired results. There really is no right or wrong here, it's all art. Next, I wanted to try something a bit unconventional, so I reached for my Dixie Dirt and also my French Tip brush by Dixie Belle. Normally, dirt is meant to be used with Dixie Belle's Best Dang Wax. However, I like to try new things and kind of experiment, and that's what I'm doing here. My paint is wet, and I am taking my French Tip brush, dabbing it in the dirt, and then gently placing it into my wet paint along the crevices of my WoodUBend Mouldings. To my delight, the dirt is taking very well to the wet paint and is giving my box a dirty look. Liking the results, I went ahead and committed to using the dirt throughout the box in entirety. I know it's hard to see now, however, hang in there. Once we apply the top coat, all of these colors are going to pop. Next up, coffee bean. This is one of my favorite colors. If you do not have this in your collection, go ahead and add it. It is a staple color. I will also be using a round, small synthetic brush by Dixie Belle. This next technique is one that I use very commonly on my furniture art. We are going to grunge this box up even further by putting a little bit of coffee bean onto the brush and wiping off the excess. You will want to get the brush as dry as possible. Once you can see that the brush is as dry as it's going to get, you can begin to paint. Using a feathering motion, I am focusing my brush on the edges and highlighting them using the coffee bean. Do this as much or as little as you would like. Also, I am using that same brush, this time in a swirling motion, to create an aged look throughout the body of the box. Just watch. Looking good so far. However, I felt it was still missing something, and so I reached for my Caviar, which is solid black by Dixie Belle. Using the same dry brush technique as I did to highlight the edges with coffee bean, I am now lightly going over some of the edges with the Caviar. Notice how it is really making those details stand out. Liking the effect, I went ahead and applied this technique throughout the box in entirety, just as I did before with the Dixie Dirt. As you see, I took it outside, sprayed it down with top coat, and I am now moving on to my last step, which is applying hammered copper gilding wax. For this, I am just using a small artist brush, and I am rubbing the hammered copper into it. In a sporadic fashion, you'll see that I am just dusting on a little bit along the edges of the filigree. My goal here is to give the details subtle pops of copper throughout. The hammered copper gilding wax is complementing the bronze paint that I used earlier even better than I could have expected. I, at this point, am very excited. My finish is complete, and I went ahead and added some felt lining to the inside of the box. This information is not really pivotal to the finish, obviously. However, I just wanted to give you some insight as to what goes on in my studio, and also perhaps give you some ideas for your future box creations. I am a firm believer of focusing on the little details, and I feel adding this felt just gives this box a nice professional touch. For the record, it is not shown, but I also went ahead and added some feet to the box as well. And that's it, a fresh take on an old box. Hint hint, this finish can also be applied to furniture. If you learned something here and want to stay up to date with future tutorials, go ahead and subscribe. Special thanks to Dixie Belle and WoodUBend, you guys are amazing! It's been a pleasure taking this journey with you. Bianca from Lotus Series Designs, over and out.